Hello, beautiful people. What's up on this beautiful Saturday? It is the wonderful day of March 23rd. A day before the cosmic shift, I guess, is about to happen. 24th and 25th of this month is supposed to be something great happening universally. So, I'd like to tackle a subject that most people would frown upon, most Afro-Americans think don't exist, but after the things I'm going to reveal in this little talk, you will see without a doubt that these things are very real. These things do exist, and possibly one of the most diabolical and lowest of low beings on the face of the earth is running our country right now. Now, this is a talk about our president, Mr. Obama, and what I've built upon reading things on the internet, watching his come to power. A man basically just came out of nowhere, out of obscurity. No one knew about him. No one knew who he was. And all of a sudden, boom, there's this so-called black man running for president that has no history. It's like his past is blacked out. And from what I've read and from what I've learned, he's paid a lot to keep it that way. And so is the American government. Now, first, I would like you to understand one specific thing. The truth about the Nazis, okay? And what went on politically and religiously with this party. I'll get back to Obama and I'll tie it all in and you'll understand. And maybe this will blow your mind because I'm gonna write a book about it. Oh yeah, by the way, I just got the good news. I'm gonna be published. So I'm gonna be a published writer because a company, actually two companies, really do like what I do and like what I write. So alright, bravo for me. Anyway, let's cover two major facts on the Nazis that no one has covered. Now, I'm what you call a Nazi hunter. I've studied the thing that has killed my people and hunted my people and lied and deceived through propaganda. But what people don't really see is the big picture. Now, what the Nazis did, what Hitler did, was completely diabolical. Because his parents and him, they were raised devout Catholics. His parents sit on the grounds of a Catholic burial ground. The Hitlers. Hitler was the grandson of a Rothschild. The American government knew this when they paid agents to uncover his past. Kind of like Obama. So I'm sure Obama's past will come out. So Hitler, by fact, knew the Bible. He read the Bible growing up. His parents were Catholics. Now, I'd like to humbly ask you to just take your time and read over Deuteronomy. In Deuteronomy, it specifically talks about God's people being delivered. It talks about God's people being enslaved, persecuted, executed throughout history. It talks about God's people being in chains. It talks about what happened to God's people and how they will be delivered out of this slavery into salvation. Now, one fact I would like to point out is this. Now Hitler knew this. Hitler was also a Jew. He went through a lot of trouble to hide the fact that he was a Jew. I mean, look at him. He's short, dark hair. Put some glasses on him. He'll look like the Ashkenazi Jew guy of today. Rothschilds, Ashkenazi Jews. So what Hitler did to hide the fact that his grandmother was a Jew and she had sex with a Jew Rothschild, Lionel Rothschild, factually speaking, he blew up the library because in Germany is where all the birth certificates and historical artifacts were kept. So he burned the library and burned her town. That was the first town the Nazis attacked. That is exactly why. Because let me tell you, the Nazis developed a plan. Paint Hitler as the Antichrist, okay? Now what they actually did is they went around saying the Jews are the devil. The Jews are this. The black people are the devil. We must kill them. That's exactly what they did. But knowing about Deuteronomy and knowing how people in history would look back on that time, especially his own Nazi survivors, and look back on that time and say it's the Ashkenazi Jews that were persecuted and prosecuted and put in chains and all of this stuff happened to them. Well, I'm here to say bullshit. Are you forgetting about slavery? Are you forgetting about 300 years of putting the Afro people in chains, prosecuting them and trading them? How long did the execution on the Hebrew Jew people last? Not that long, people. Not when you look at it in comparison with slavery. And for all of you historians say, oh, it was 245 years for slavery. Bullshit. After the Emancipation Proclamation was passed, there were slaves being brought in through the port of New Orleans for 60 years in secret, and all of those so-called, white slavers, the guys, the Freemasons that wrote the Emancipation Proclamation and the American Constitution, cashing in on bringing those slaves in. $1 million a head for 60 years, okay? Those are facts. The oldest brothel that was left standing was in New Orleans. Why? Because everybody loved that Cajun pussy. Everybody liked to dip into that chocolate. I ain't gonna deny, Cajun women are just fine. So thus you have Storyville, that was the last legal prostitution brothel that was closed down in America because it was the birthplace of what we know as jazz also. You would have the old jazz musicians, the innovators of jazz, go there, inject themselves with heroin and play jazz while people were having sex and get paid for it. This was Storyville. This is fact. So getting back to the Nazis and what they knew and what they actually did, they actually went about and prosecuted and executed their own people so Hitler could run experimentations on his own kind, on his own bloodline, which was Ashkenazi, and Hebrews, which the sovereign Hebrews of Europe, of Romania, of Russia, were descendants from Asia, from Africa. Because if you understand history, there was a time when Asia and Africa, the continents, were one. So you have the Afro-Asian. And when you go to places like the Philippines, you'll see Filipinos that get darker than so-called Afro people. But through brainwashing and all the stuff that has happened in the Philippines, they're more racist than white people. But then in the Philippines, they have an Afro nose, Afro skin color. I mean, they're Afro-Asians. So this is history, people. But nobody has put it together like I'm putting it together right now. So what I'm trying to explain to you is what the Nazis actually did is they fulfilled their so-called prophecies of Deuteronomy on their own people to simply do this. To serve the purpose as to say the Jews, the Ashkenazi Jews, have a right to go to Palestine and claim this is Israel. This is our land. Which is what they did. Because the Ashkenazi Jews could not prove they were from anywhere. Because in that technicality, they weren't. The Ashkenazis are nothing but liars. They have no true history. And then when you get into Christ, they don't even admit that Yeshua Christ was the Savior. Why? Because they knew he was of a true Hebrew bloodline, which is of Afro descent, not Ashkenazi descent. The Ashkenazis are descendants of the Canaanites. The Canaanites are descendants of Cain. Thus their name. Cain was the first murderer. Cain was an albino. Cain was sent away from his own family after he killed Abel. After he took Abel's wife. So these are all biblical facts that the Nazis knew. It don't take a genius to put it together like this. So then when you look into the whole prophylactic era of what the Nazis have done, you can actually see it now when you look at it from a distance, which I'm helping you do right now. Because there are Jew museums and there are all these things dedicated to the prosecution and execution of the Jews. And then they're so quick to say they're anti-Semitic, they're anti-this, but they worship the Star of David. They call the Star of David the Morning Star. It is a pentagram. Bottom line, Lucifer's name was the Morning Star. And then when you have these Jews for Christians, they say the Morning Star of David is the sign for Christ. Bullshit. This is how the Nazis have twisted religion and twisted God's people to tempt God's people away from thee. Now imagine if you're Hitler and the Nazis, and what they actually did is they went on the search for the Holy Grail also, just like the Knights Templars. Now, what if, no, what if they did, okay? Because it's not that hard, especially with as much power as they had, to find out the truth. So every time that these Nazis they went to the library and the museum first. Take it, what you need, and burn the rest. So basically, what if they found out the truth about Yeshua Christ, the truth about the Hebrews? Which was what? Probably the same thing that the Knights Templars found out. Because the Magi, the Arabs, the Muslims, the first Aryan race, because the word Aryan is Arabic in descent. So they buried the truth about Christ. And then they showed the Knights Templars where it was and how to dig it up after they went to war with them, because the church sent the Knights Templars to find the Holy Grail. So the Templars promised to always bow down to the Magi's if they showed them what they needed. So the story goes, the Templars found out something about Christ that the church, the Roman Catholic Church, feared. Feared so much that they let the Knights Templars rise to power and rule over Europe like kings after they developed the first system of banking from the teachings of the Muslim Masons, Rosicrucians that knew the truth. But again, Muslims, first Aryans, Arabs, okay? Understand this, people. Aryans. So what these Aryans possibly, I believe, buried was the truth about Yeshua Christ. The simple truth. That he had hair of wool and feet of bronze, like the Bible says. So then the Templars were outraged and they said, this ain't the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus that we've been worshiping. His name is actually Yeshua, and he's an Afro man. So they sent one sentence back to the church, and the church left them alone and let them rise to power. Then the church destroyed them, so they thought, and they went back into hiding. Some say Russia, where the so-called communist movement started. Now, let me give you some history. The Nazis actually started in Russia. They started communism. But communism didn't work. They couldn't control it. So then the Templars went to Germany. They started the socialist movement. Then they found Hitler. The socialist movement became the Nazi movement. So the Templars, after they, went in hiding, they went to Russia, gathered and started the communist movement, thought they could gain world control through this, and they couldn't. They couldn't control it. So the fact of the matter is, the Nazis found out the same thing that the Templars found out. Christ was an Afro descent man. The Hebrews, the original Hebrews, were of Afro descent. It doesn't take a genius to see, like, on the walls of Egypt, on the Mayan walls, those are Afro descent people, not Caucasian. This is why in Egypt you have the Sphinx, where Egypt now is primarily Muslim, where the Roman Catholics went around to all the Sphinx, the Romans went around to all the Sphinx and knocked the noses off. And continued to do the same thing to Nubian artifacts. Why did they do this? Why would you knock the nose off a Sphinx and things that have been there for hundreds and hundreds of years before you? Why? Because it was an Afro nose. So you could go back and teach your other Freemasons that it was you that built the pyramids. This is what these 32-degree Freemasons are teaching their kids, that the pyramids were built by Aryans? No, they were built by Nubians. There was a town called Cush, and Egypt was called Kish. And then in Egypt, after the Nubians taught the Greeks how to read and write and taught them mathematics, they welcomed them into Kish, and then the Greeks started mixing with the Nubians, and then the birth of Freemasonry and paganism came out of Kish, and Kish was turned into Egypt. So they don't want to tell the 32-degree Freemasons about Moors and the Nubians and the truth about the Hebrews and the Black Chinese predating the Ming Dynasty, when China and Africa were one continent. You could walk from Africa to China. They're one race. But through the Nazi propaganda, what they've taught you is hey, there's the white man, there's this man. Well, there was a first man. There was a Garden of Eden, which was supposedly in Ethiopia. So now, let's get back to the trick that the Nazis did and how they tricked everybody and what they're going to do with the Antichrist, aka supposedly Prince William, and how he's part of the Moravian bullshit bloodline, that they've launched all this bullshit with Dan Brown. Hey, Dan Brown worked for the CIA. He was a code breaker, people. See, everybody's so quick to believe in, Dan Brown's book about Mary Magdalene and Jesus having a kid, and then having that bloodline traced through France and traced through all these places. And then the so-called Europeans are the keeper of the Holy Grail, which this is the same thing that the Europeans sent the Knights Templars to do. So how is it that the Europeans sent the Knights Templars to Iraq, Iran, the Middle East to search for the Holy Grail when the Holy Grail was in Europe? Don't you think the church, when they came to power, when they went around to all of these societies that had more power than them, took all their scrolls, took all their teachings, don't you think they would have found this out? More than likely. And they wouldn't have had to send the Templars to look for a so-called Holy Grail was already in Europe, being hidden by the Rosicrucians. Come on, people. It's bullshit. What they've done with CIA Dan Brown and a book, Holy Blood, Holy Grail, because that's where Dan Brown claims all his research comes from. There is no factual anything about what they say. But with media and half-assed, uneducated Freemasons pushing these bullshit theories that are not based in fact, that are not based in historical fact, making them truth, paint a picture of a Moravian bloodline, which this bloodline leads all the way, what they say is to Princess Diana, and then ultimately to William, and William being the Holy Grail bloodline of Christ. So I've done my research. I will post my note and all the research that I've done under this, including the stuff I'm going to get into about Obama. So now, what we have is Obama. Before I get into Obama, let me explain to you about House Negroes. House Negroes could live in the house. House Negroes had certain privileges. House Negroes had it good because they were half slave owner blood. And they were considered to be better than slaves. A lot of the times, we would call these people the black slavers. There's nothing more lower than an individual that enslaves his own people. Ain't that right, black Freemasons? Huh? Let me say it again. There's nothing more lower on this freaking earth than a black enslaver. Black Freemasons. Prince Hall Freemasons. There is nothing lower than you on this earth. Because when you get into the Emancipation Proclamation that our forefathers so-called passed, and even Martin Luther King and his people were too lazy to look up the definition of emancipate, which you have tons of black people celebrating Juneteenth, Black History Month, when they're so educated about black history and they know all about black artists and black names and black this and black that. When They're too ignorant to look up one fact. Actually, two. There ain't no black. If you're calling yourself black, you're stupid. Black is a shade. White is a shade. There ain't no white man. There ain't no black man. Have you technically ever seen a black man? I mean, I've never seen a black man. I've seen a brown man. I've seen a dark brown man. I've even seen like a brownish dark blue man. I've seen a tan man. I've seen a pink man. I've seen a reddish brown man. I've seen a yellowish tan man. But I ain't never seen no black man and no white man, technically. And technically, when you get into the definition of colors, black is not a color. It's a shade. White is not a color. It's a shade. But on these Luciferian incorporated documents and everything else, you're so quick to click or check, I'm black, I'm white. And here you are already degrading yourself from who you are, technically. So then when you get into the Emancipation Proclamation, it means to transfer property, your property, to another establishment or organization, and then you proclaim this. To proclaim something means it is done. I have done it. I am proclaiming it. I am speaking it. I am letting others know. I'm proclaiming this. So in actuality, what you have in the Emancipation Proclamation is you have the Aryan Freemasons, which wrote the American Constitution, which needed to solve a situation to give the slaves a little bit more freedom, which they figured out a more productive slave is a slave that is tricked into thinking that they are free. Emancipation Proclamation is exactly this. So they gave him a birth certificate. This birth certificate in actuality is a bond. A straw man bond. So if you look on your birth certificate under your mother's name, guess what? It don't say mother. It says informant. What she's actually doing is informing the United States Federal Reserve Corporation that they have another $1 million to trade with in secret and to pocket after you die, which is possibly worth trillions. I mean, we're talking about money masters trading your ass on the black market in secret from the day you're born. And these guys are masters of money. And I mean, these stocks and bonds are being traded and invested in bulk funds. And then they're pocketed after you're dead. Did you know about this? Did you get any money? Were you left in debt after your mom died? Answer is yes. You are in debt. And yes, you're still a slave. If you have a birth certificate, if you were born in America after the second economic stock crash that the Rothschilds organized to make the government implement the straw man bond on everyone born in America after that time, because America needed something to put up as collateral. So the slaves, Afro slaves, weren't good enough anymore. They did it to everybody. So also another thing that you need to understand is what our so-called Aryan Freemason forefathers did was this. In this act of the Emancipation Proclamation, they also attached on certain agreements to give a body of men the same rights as a slave, and technically even more rights as a slave, because this act was specifically just to benefit these Aryan Freemasons. Now, simply what I mean is this. You have McDonald's, right? It's a corporation. McDonald's has a face. Ronald McDonald. Everybody identifies Ronald McDonald, that head corporate face, that logo of the, arches, which is Masonic also. The gold arches. It's all evil shit. But they identified McDonald's with that one corporate face. So what they actually did is they gave a group of men to function with one face the same rights as a slave. It's a body of men, a corporation. So during the Emancipation Proclamation, it was specifically the birth of the foundation of the modern day corporation. So not only did they give the slaves $1 million worth, because they calculated this is how much the Afro man is worth for a lifetime of unpaid wages. $1 million. $1 million was a lot of money back then. $1 million is still a lot of money today. So when you're born, boom, Federal Reserve gets $1 million for you, and they start trading you on the stock market. On your birth certificate, the lower right-hand corner, there's a red number. That's your stock trading number. Like I said, black Masons. There's nothing more lower than a black slaver. So now you get into Obama. Now, let me tell you what Obama is. Obama is the head of the United States corporation. Technically. So you have the black Obama, that is the face of the corporation that is being run by a body of men. Freemasons, Aryans. He has no real control. He is just a face like Ronald McDonald is to McDonald's. This is the layout and foundation of how a corporation operates to trick people. So a president cannot rule a country, technically. A president can run a corporation. Kings and queens can rule a country, technically. So as for you thinking that Obama is actually running this country, you are a fool. So let me tell you about Obama. Here we go. We got a half black, half supposedly white man running the country, a House Negro, technically. Now I'm going to paint some different scenarios. Now I'm going to give you the facts first. Everybody was pissed off about the Nazi Bushes. Nobody voted for Bush. We voted for Gore. September 12th was the day that the Impeachment Act was supposed to be filed against Bush by the environmentalists, which it wasn't because of 9/11. Fact. The 9/11 war has been going on for 11 years, and it's pretty clear that the Bushes and the European Monarch and the Jesuit Vatican did it. Fact. So now the truth is coming out, and don't forget who fixed the votes for Bush. Jeb Bush. From Florida. Ain't too far from Texas. The Bushes and Osama bin Laden were in bed with each other through Arbrusto energies since the 80s, people. Osama bin Laden's wife's father was the biggest investor, he's an Aryan Arab, into Arbrusto energies. Osama bin Laden's cover name is Tim Osman. That's his FBI CIA cover name. He was seen 2 weeks after 9/11 in Florida. Again, Nazi state, Disney state, Jeb Bush, the guy that fixed the votes for his brother to run America. So, now we get into Obama. Obama is Dick Cheney's nephew. Obama is also related to Bush. Now we know this, but nobody actually knows how he is exactly related to the Bushes. Now, even the Bushes are related to the Nazi Hitler. Even the Bushes are related to the Windsors, the European Nazi Monarch. Even the Bushes are related to the Ashkenazi Jews. This is why you see the Bushes and Israel so tight, because it's all run by lying Ashkenazi Nazi Jews. The word Ashkenazi, for you uneducated Hebrews, the word Nazi comes from Ashkenazi. So the fact that the word Nazi comes from the word Ashkenazi, which there are Ashkenazi Jews in descent, and no one has ever been able to say this, is ludicrous. So the word Nazi actually proves that Hitler knew that he was of Ashkenazi descent, the white Jews, the Aryan Jews, and that Christ himself was of the original Hebrew bloodline, Nubian bloodline, the Afro bloodline. So this is the biggest secret that the church has ever protected, because what if it came out they've been telling millions and billions of people to worship the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Christ? How would you feel? What would you do to learn that just because of the color of a man's skin, they have been making you worship a false idol and lying to you every day of your life, every day of your parents' life, because of the color of a man's skin? So now you get into Obama. Some people are calling him the Antichrist. Some people are calling him, the end. Well, there's several things that I've uncovered about Obama. There are some things leading me to believe he was part of Project Montauk. If you don't know what Project Montauk is, please look it up. It's MAUTAWK. It was it's still going on. So it's a program that was based on taking kids, brainwashing them, and turning them into spies, and sending them through time to specifically do specific things to change history. This is basically what Project Montauk is, and the Montauk chair. So there was a video explaining that Mr. Obama was part of Project Montauk since he was a kid. The reason why they choose kids is because it's easy to program them. It's easy for them to slip into an area undetected. And it's easier for them to time travel. So the American government has been taking kids off the street for a very long time, by the millions, some people say, about Project Montauk. So President Obama has been part of this project since he was a kid. So what you have is this president that showed up out of nowhere. Because, come on, people. I mean, the first time you heard of Obama was when you heard, hey, there's a black man running for president. Before that, you didn't know who he was. I mean, honestly, he came out of nowhere. And now his past is bullshit. He wasn't born in Hawaii. That's proven. His birth certificate is a lie. Nobody in Hawaii knew him. But then you have his relatives coming in Kenya, and you're seeing all of this stuff about his relatives popping up, wanting to be Americans, wanting the same rights as him. A few of his family members have come forward and said that, and they're all from Kenya. Why Kenya, Obama? Because he was probably born in Kenya. That's why you had all these Africans, Obama, Obama, Obama. So Obama's black side is Kenyan. I have a copy of his ID, his Columbia University ID, which he did go to school here, but the funny thing about his ID is it says foreign student. I got this from a dead CIA agent. He was my fourth cousin. I put it up on Facebook for him to say, fuck you, Obama. So there's your Columbia University ID with everything and your foreign student stamp, barcode, everything. So that's proof that he was foreign when he went to college here in America. So he's not American, but the question you should be asking is, why did they go through all this trouble to put this one black Afro man as president? Why? Has anyone asked yourself this question? It is so much trouble to put a foreigner that is not American at the head of the presidency. What's so special about this one man? We got tons of mixed Afro descent people. Don't forget, people, in the American Constitution, it says if you have 5% of Negro blood, you're not considered human. 5%. You're considered of Negro descent. It takes 5%. Obama got more than 5%. He's half Kenyan. So, Project Montauk, they take this boy, put him in total secrecy, black out his history. Project Montauk is the biggest black ops program there is. I mean, if the world got hold of the government was sending kids back in the past to change the future. I mean, do you know the ramifications of what would happen to the United States worldwide? Anybody having anything to do with Project Montauk would be destroyed, because that is too much power to actually have. If you could go back in time and assassinate somebody. I mean, there's a theory that John Wilkes Booth was the same person that assassinated Abraham Lincoln. But hey, we don't have time machines, right? So anyways, these are theories. You can't prove it, because anybody that gets proof, they're killed. But these are things that I put together. So I just wrote a nice little expose about Obama, because I saw this video about Hitler and Kenya, and they show Hitler with this black Kenyan family. Now, we all know I'm from the South, okay? Come on, men. Come on, Afro descent ladies. We all know that everybody likes to dip in the chocolate. The slave masters have loved to dip in the chocolate. I mean, the Afro women, I mean, that chocolate is divine. So now you see what I'm getting at, people. What if Obama, in actuality and factually, is the half-son of Adolf Hitler because Adolf Hitler dipped in the chocolate when he was in Kenya? Because Adolf Hitler and the Nazi movement actually found out what the Knights Templars found out, because the Knights Templars were actually restarted or revamped in Bavaria as the New Templar Order. And they took over the Jesuits so they could reinsure that the Catholic Church didn't come after them again like they did last time. So they just took over the whole Catholic order under the Jesuits and the Templars. So what if they found out what the Templars found out? That Yeshua Christ of the original Hebrew bloodline was of hair of wool, feet of bronze, just like the Bible King David says, you idiots. So Hitler knew that the Christ that he was taught to worship all his life was a lie. And probably understood the reason why the Ashkenazi Jews don't give any respect to Christ, technically, because he was of original Hebrew Afro descent. So they shrub their noses up at him, just like they do today at many Afro-Americans and Afro people around the world. It's called racism. They don't want to give any props to Afro history. They don't want you to know that the Nubian Moors traveled the world before anybody. Well, if you have Africa and China as one continent, what do you have? You have Afro-Chinese, Afro people. Like, my God, that's hyper intelligent. I mean, that's Nubians. That's some serious technological shit. When Africa and China were one. But throughout history, you have these Aryan professors and these Aryan Freemasons shrubbing their noses up at what kicks them in the face. So Hitler and all of these Nazis found the truth. So let's get into one specific fact about the Vril society. Vril is considered by the Vril society the power, the superpower behind the human psyche, and the super ultra metaphysical power that the Vril society called this the Vril. The Vril society also worship the black sun. Yeah, you heard me. The black sun. Now, what is the black sun? Now you see what I'm getting at. How could you have these Nazis, the power behind the power, that went throughout the whole world, devouring history and looking for the truth and the Holy Grail and the truth about Hebrews, when in the King James Bible it tells you, he had hair of wool, like me, my hair is pretty woolly, and feet of bronze. So if you have feet of bronze, it says feet. Naturally, his whole body is bronze. What color is bronze? Brown. So through Nazi propaganda, they developed black people, white people, eugenics, bullshit. What if, we started calling ourselves brown? What if we started calling ourselves the Bronze Age? The Bronze people. Nubians. Bronze. Brown. Technically correct. So then when you get into the Vril society, you're telling me If I can figure this out without having, how can I say this, 1/10 of the knowledge and the power and the manpower and the ability to go into libraries throughout the world and museums throughout the world and technically run tests, genealogy tests, break the DNA code, learn how to clone, all the stuff the Nazis did. You're telling me they can't figure out this one fact? That the original Hebrews were of Afro descent? Come on, people. They knew. So then when you get into Hitler, he knew. Come on. He was a devout Christian. Before he started the Nazi movement, what has the Nazi movement done? They tried to paint a picture of the Ashkenazi Jews being the people of Deuteronomy, being the people of God's people, being delivered out of salvation, to give Israel some credibility, to allow these Ashkenazis to literally go into Palestine, which was the Holy Land, go in and just take their land. Under a lie. And the Afro descent Hebrews in Israel are the most prosecuted Hebrews, even more so than the Nazis in Israel. Because they're a constant reminder of what you are not, Ashkenazis. They're a constant reminder of where you come from and the lies that you have told throughout all of history to put yourself up on a pedestal to be worshipped through lies. So what happens when the world understands the big picture? That what? Hitler had sex with a Kenyan woman? This was the Vril Society's biggest secret. Hitler went back to his roots because even he was an Ashkenazi Jew, and even the Ashkenazi Jews hate the fact that Christ was of Afro descent. So Hitler, had sex with a Kenyan woman that was descended from when China and Africa were one. She was descended from the original Nubian bloodlines. And then you get into a theory about Obama being a clone. Well, hey, what if they did experiments on this Kenyan woman, actually took her egg or put some DNA of an Egyptian pharaoh into her egg after she was impregnated? Now, if you study cloning and the technology of what they've done to a sheep and how they actually do it, this is exactly what they do, people. They inject DNA into the egg during impregnation. So Obama looks like an ancient Egyptian pharaoh. I will post that video where you have another man named Freeman, who his parents are high-degree Freemasons from here in Texas. He breaks it down about Obama clone. So maybe they cloned Obama to make sure nothing happens to their black son, in case somebody figures out what he is, who he is, and what they've actually done. So I hope I've given you a little things to think about. And as for you black Masons, you're fucked. Because obviously they know. Prince Hall Lodge, you're fucked. Because obviously you know. Because Obama belongs to the all-black Mason Prince Hall Lodge, which is majority Muslim. Descendants of the first Aryans. They're not Moors. You call a Moor Muslim, you will get slapped and be lucky that you don't get disemboweled. My grandfather, Mr. Davis, is a Nubian Moor. L.B. Davis. For you people of Brownsville, Texas, you know who he is. So he's a Shriner, a high Shriner. So when he dies, what's my inheritance? Listening to this, have I proven who is highly educated? This is my hypothesis. So I thank you for your time. I would like to say on behalf of the Afro race, fuck you Ashkenazi, Freemason, Nazi, bullshit Jews. Fuck you Antichrist, Prince William. Fuck you Obama and all of those motherfuckers that spend so much time to hide the biggest lie throughout history, that supposedly that man is the son of Adolf Hitler. As old as he is, it does fit. So it would make sense that the shadow government, the racist Nazi organization, why they've taken in so many people of Afro descent. Well, in actuality, what they've actually done is they've taken in the people that are descended from their slave masters. I even have their blood. They've asked me to join their ranks 4 different times. Twice in America, twice in Europe. I basically told them to fuck off and die. Because of my bloodline, and because I am mixed with slave blood, royal slave blood from Europe, and also mixed with sovereign Afro-Nubian Blackfoot bloodlines of the people that were here in America before these goddamn bullshit, lying, heathenistic pagans got off the boat. Learn your history. Quit calling yourself black. Because when you call yourself black, you actually are a fucking nigger. The definition of nigger, nigger, that word coming from Niger, the river in Africa, means an uneducated person. I am proof that I am exactly not that. So, who are the real uneducated people? Freemasons. Black Freemasons. So-called educated government bullshit agents that have come at me several times. In Paris, shit, they sent 2 squadrons. I'm still alive. Those guys, they're not. Fuck them. So anyways, I'm getting published. I'm gonna have fun writing. Oh yeah, and don't forget, even Quentin Tarantino's from Texas. How do I know? Because for God's sakes, I grew up with them in Spring Branch, people. Liv Tyler from Spring Branch. Do you know how many people are from Spring Branch? Even the Bushes, the Richies from Spring Branch. You don't know shit about Texas. Don't forget NASA. Get educated. This is The Takeover. Peace.